Hey everybody, and welcome to week 11 of class. This week we are going to begin what will eventually be a 6-week long assessment of the period of the Civil War. And effectively what we're going to do is we're going to be covering material from about 1850 up through 1877. Now the reason why I spend so much time on this particular topic, perhaps at the expense of others, is because for me at least, and for many other historians, the Civil War is perhaps, and I believe, the most significant event in U.S. history. It came to define what we mean by union. It abolished the institution of slavery and put into place a series of events that would shape U.S. history for the next century, perhaps even longer. Indeed, many of the issues that were present during the post-Civil War period, what we call Reconstruction, which technically ended in 1877, those issues continued to persist, specifically in the South, all the way up through the 1960s and 70s. This is why the Civil Rights Movement is, in some respects, considered a continuation of Reconstruction. And so I spend a lot of time looking at this topic because I think it's incredibly important to understanding who we are as Americans and perhaps how we can deal with some of the issues of racial inequality and social injustice that still present themselves today. So what we're going to be doing this week and next week is we're going to be looking at a number of issues that caused the American Civil War. Now, the reality is that if we were doing an entire course on the Civil War, we could look at how the development of the United States, even from its inception during the colonial era, sort of set the framework, set the groundwork for what would become the Civil War. Now, this should not mean that the Civil War was inevitable from the very beginning, but you can trace a line where you can see the development of sectionalism within the United States, where eventually these two halves of the country, the North and the South, will eventually explode into war. Now, the traditional history will tell you that and by traditional history I mean generally high school courses, junior high courses, what have you, they generally will tell you that that slavery caused the Civil War. And although slavery is a central and perhaps the most central aspect for what caused the Civil War, the reality is that that's simply too simplistic to say. And so what we're going to look at today are just four. There are more, so if you happen to be aware of others or you have done additional reading, please, you can bring this into your discussion boards. But we are going to look at just four major, what I call causes of the Civil War, and these would include slavery, and you might also add the westward expansion of slavery into that, preservation of the Union, states' rights, and economic differences, okay? And so we're going to kind of look at the causes of the Civil War through those big main 4 points, and then we're going to be looking at a number of what I call trigger events, and these would be things like the Kansas-Nebraska Act, the Dred Scott decision, the Compromise of 1850, among others. And so lots of things that we're going to be assessing, and ultimately in the end what I hope is that you will have a far more nuanced understanding of the causes of the Civil War, and over the next couple weeks you will get to explore kind of where you land on this topic. So, but for this week, just a broad overview and just to get those juices flowing, okay? All right, that's what we got. Of course, you got your discussion boards due. Make sure you know when those are due and the time that they're due by. You guys are actually pretty good at that. So get those in, and if you have questions, contact me. Otherwise, as always, go in peace, be warm and filled. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper, and may the odds forever be in your favor. Have a blessed week, guys.